Welcome everyone to episode 60 of the Phoenix Report. I am Jack Connor, and this is a very unique situation as far as my guest today. As I record this, it is Wednesday, November 7th, 2019, and a few days before this, on Sunday, I get a call from a friend of mine, a guy named Regis Lima, who I'm going to have on this very soon because he and I have been working on some stuff together, which I will go into at a later date. But he's another musician who I'm really good friends with. He sends me a text. He says, "Hey, I've got this guy I know who's looking to put together a band in Orlando. He's wondering if you want to play bass for him." Now, truth be told, anyone who knows me knows that I have a lot of other stuff going on outside of work and outside of family, as if those two don't take up enough of my time. But I also, in addition to being, rebuilding Vertebreaker, which I'm doing right now, I also got, the stuff with GCW, with Generation Championship Wrestling, and also this Linkin Park tribute band that I just recently posted about. I'll get into more of that later. So, needless to say, I wasn't necessarily looking to add on to what I've been doing already. But this guy gets in touch with me, and he seems pretty serious, and he kind of laid out this idea. And once I found out that everyone else involved was in sort of a similar position to me, as far as like being in other bands and having other stuff, and when I kind of heard the schedule and sort of some of the circumstances, I ended up agreeing to it. And again, this is only like really a few days removed from this. We've already gone public, especially by the time I post this podcast. But yeah, apparently I am now the bass player for a band called Mature Musical Pictures, or I guess MMP for short. I'm not sure how they abbreviate it. But yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and get into it because, again, this is all still new for me. I'm still getting to know these guys. But please welcome to the Phoenix Report the lead singer and founder and sort of main guy behind Mature Musical Pictures, Bryant August.
Hey, guys.
Yeah, well, welcome to the show, Brian. Like this, kind of like I said in the intro, like, you and I literally just met a few days ago before we are recording this now. And I gotta say, what you kind of proposed to me for this project, this band, was really unique and really interesting, and let me know that, all right, well, this guy's pretty serious about what he's doing already. And obviously I listened to the music that you sent me, and it was great. I loved it. But like beyond that, like I can tell that you're making some plans to do something serious with this thing. But before we get into what we're doing right now, just if you just want to tell me and the listeners about yourself, about where you come from, about sort of how you got to where you are now.
Well, I mean, at the age of 13, my uncle made me a guitar, and he was a huge Steve Vai, Joe Satriani, Eddie Van Halen really is his primary, influence. He had the Ibanez guitars with the handles on it, with the Floyd Rose and the vines going through the neck. And when I first saw that, I was just like, wow, that's so cool. And so he, and that was for years before that, but finally I turned to the age of 12 or 13, and, I loved watching him play, when we went on vacation to Michigan. We went to Michigan every summer, and, I was born in Michigan, but didn't spend too much time there because at the age of 5, we moved to Northeast Pennsylvania. And my father was a ski resort manager that opened a ski resort in the Poconos, there called Montage Mountain. So, back to my uncle, and being 12, 13, he made me this guitar that had, and I'll name different pieces of the instrument. It had a Ibanez body, a Vantage neck. It had, some older type of, pickups in it. It was like an older type of bridge that he put on it. It had different kind of tuners on it. It was really like a custom type of made guitar, and it was maroon. So he put this guitar together for me, and then he gave me this, little crate practice amp, and I had actually a reverb box on top of it that he gave to me too, which I had to wire all in together, and So anyway, he taught me how to play a power chord. So then, once you learn how to play a power chord, you kind of, you're playing all over the neck and you're power chording everywhere. You're on power chord mania there.
Yeah.
So
isn't it funny how like, at age 12 or 13, I mean, that was like when I started like really getting into music. Isn't it just weird? Something about that age, at least for guys.
Yeah.
It's just like, I guess when you start figuring out like who you are or who you want to be and just kind of developing your taste, it's just something magical about that time.
Yeah, yeah, and I was really into the 90s 90s rock, which was all the Seattle stuff. Like Alice in Chains was my favorite band. I was really into Pearl Jam. I was really into Soundgarden. Those bands were really, what I really started out, really falling in love with.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, I'm about 35. I'm assuming you're around my age.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, so that was still very hot at the time.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And that filtered into different other bands like Filter and, Bush was big back then. Trying to think of some other name bands that were like really out there. I was really big into Metallica too. Metallica, there was a big mix of music. I used to play in my basement. I used to have those huge, canned headphones and, play I don't know if you remember the old computer systems, the RGB, where it would be the MS-DOS, computer games, King's Quest, Heroes Quest, Alf, and like stuff like that. I would play those kind of games and just listen to, the Metallica albums, the cassettes. I'd be listening to the cassettes of the Metallica albums. I had all the albums, but everything went into kind of phases. So I got to 8th grade. I used to have really long hair. I played soccer. And at this 8th grade class day, we played this Pearl Jam song called Porch. And I was the lead singer. My hair was in my face. Like everybody from 9th and 10th grade heard about this and showed up to this 8th grade class day at the middle school, which everyone else was like from high school that heard about this, that wanted to see it. It was like, oh my God. So then everybody was like there, and it was just this crazy moment where everyone was on stage, and I remember seeing a VHS tape of it, and one of the girls I went to high school with had it, and I remember seeing it, and it was really good. Like it sounded really good, and it was performed really well. We were insane on stage. It was just like, from that moment, I was just like, wow, I just love this. And this is, something that I would love to do. And, from there until now, I pretty much have played in, a lot of different cover bands. I had acoustic duos. I had, a heavy metal band that played like, Megadeth and Metallica and a bunch of stuff like that. And I had like a hard rock type of band where we would play like Seether stuff, Chevelle, Seven Dust, music like that. Like I always been involved with the kind of like the hard rock music. And
this is all throughout high school and after high school and all that.
Like after high school, after high school was when I played in the other bands, and when high school finished, I played in some of the other bands.
Were you mainly on guitar, or were you always singing?
Yeah, I was mainly on guitar. Yeah, I was mainly on guitar.
Because you mentioned you were singing in the talent show. Did you know that you could sing before that, or did you do anything like that?
I didn't do anything from then until recently. I was primarily on guitar, and a lot of backing vocals, on stage. But at the time of 8th grade, after that class day, that band continued, and, we played at the arcade, we played at a church one time, and we just packed these places. It was just insane. It was just so much fun. And like all the older kids wanted to come and see it. And, So then eventually, like, we got through like 10th grade, and then our musical influences changed a little bit. We had some original music that we wrote. One of the guys that played guitar, the other guitar player. So I played guitar and sang, for that project. And, at the class day, I didn't need to play guitar because there was really only one guitar in that song. So, I didn't play guitar for that at that event, but, primarily guitar player. So, I always loved to sing. My parents are in the choir. My father plays trombone. They play bells. My uncle plays guitar, incredible guitar player. So there's music that comes, from the family.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. I'm a little jealous that you got to get in a band right away when you were in junior high. I didn't really get in a serious band until I was in college. So I just had a hard time finding guys who, at that age, who were into the same kind of stuff that I was. But it is what it is.
Yeah, we did for a little while. Like, we were all into the 90s, the 90s music. And that kind of filtered into a little bit of Blind Melon when they were around for a short time, and Candlebox.
Yeah.
Was big. We explored other music that started coming out, that kind of veered away from the 90s. But I always fall back to like Alice in Chains is my favorite, from that. And then, that leads into all kinds of other things. But primarily, I was a guitar player, between being the lead singer of that band in the 8th grade and 9th grade and 10th grade. I played guitar from there in other cover bands up until this point. In 2017, I got together with Brett Hessla. I actually went to a convention in Orlando, and you worked with him too.
The common thread that we ended up finding when we talked to each other was that the MMP stuff that you recorded already was done through Brett Hessla and produced by him, which the first Vertebreaker record was done with him as well. I had been a fan of him for years.
Yeah.
The people listening can't see it, but Bryant's got a Dark New Day t-shirt on, so I love that. But yeah, no, I was a fan of, pretty much everything he had done up to that point. And so it was really cool because, my band had only been together a few months at that point, and he really helped us out in the studio a lot. And it was just so cool to hear all the stories and of everything he had done over the years. So, but that seemed to be sort of the common thread, because you could tell when you listen to a band that's been produced by Brett Hessla, it's not that it all sounds the same, but there's definitely a distinct aesthetic to it, as far as like how he layers vocals and just his sense of melody kind of comes through throughout a lot of it. But it's all good stuff that I really enjoy.
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole family of us, and the way I got to Brett Hessla was through Sevendust, because I've loved Sevendust for like ever. Mm-hmm. I think 2001 was when I fell in love with Sevendust. I was like, oh my God, what is that? And then Clint, being part of Sevendust, left Sevendust. So I was like, oh, I got to follow what this guy's doing. So then I followed what he was doing, and then that fell into Dark New Day, mm-hmm. And then he was doing Dark New Day with Brett. And then Brett had already, Brett had already toured with Creed, and mm-hmm. he was in Virgos Merlot before that, which I really didn't, catch or know about until afterwards. And then trying to, things, you fall into this rabbit hole. It's like you watch a YouTube video. It's the same with music. It's like you go on, you find all these different projects that are going on, and mm-hmm. all the people, and you're following them and seeing what they're doing, and it's really cool, and you support them. And so that's kind of how it all really happened. So anyway, I had just had this acoustic, demos that I was just kind of goofing around with, and I put them to a click track because I was just like, if I ever, do anything with this, I don't want to waste my time. So I'd already been doing other projects that really never like released. There's this one called End of Story that I did, with a good friend of mine, a couple good friends of mine. And I played guitar on that, and I did some backing vocals. It's called End of Story. We did an EP. It was kind of like a collaborative thing. We never played live. But we just did something, that was fun. And one of my friends had a studio that he built in his basement, and back then it was like Pro Tools was like the best thing ever. So it was all like, that was when digital first came out. So it was like, you could either record the tape and be cool, or you could do, record the Pro Tools and be cooler. It was like that kind of thing. And we were like, yeah, we got Pro Tools, So it was like,
yeah,
we recorded a bunch of songs, and then we eventually like tried to mix it ourselves, and it didn't work out. So we had someone else do it. But I mean, really after that, I really didn't have anything like original that was like released that ever worked out. I always had demos and stuff like that, but these acoustic demos were just kind of like me, coming up with different things. I wrote lyrics, and I just, I went to a convention in Orlando, and, I asked Brett if I could stop by, and he showed me his studio, and then I would just let him hear these, acoustic demos. And he's like, yeah, I really dig this. We should do something with this. So I was like, really? You really dig it? I was like, no way. So, we turned these acoustic demos into electric songs, but then we kept the original acoustic idea, and made, six songs. It's really an album because there's 12 songs, but there's two of the same song because one is electric version, one is acoustic version. And, Brett strategically put symphony, orchestra, piano, all kinds of really awesome stuff in the background on these songs, which gave it, a really something for everybody. So when I was trying to think of like a band name, which I'm leading into, Mature Musical Pictures, it was like, okay, I have these songs and I want something that's like, a mature sound that is something for everybody. So if you like acoustic, you'll love these songs. If you like electric, you'll love these songs. So there's two sides of the whole thing. So I just stuck with that name. Some people get confused and think it's some kind of production company or photography or something like that. But
yeah, I mean, it doesn't exactly roll off the tongue.
Yeah, it's a hard thing to, it's long, it's 3 words, but it's different. So that's what it's, that's what I was focused on is, having a name that's different and, having something that's for everybody. Now, with these new songs, with the new single, My Own Life, that released last year in December of 2018, that really has a lot more of my influences in that song, and that's what the new songs are going to sound like. It's more of a hard rock feel, lower tunings, more aggressive drums, I'm sure, based on, how those work out.
When you were originally writing these songs, were you thinking that you wanted to put this to a band originally, before you met Brett, or was it a case of you meeting him and then realizing, hey, I might have a way to really make this happen here?
I had no idea. There was I would just sit down and then come up with different things like on the acoustic guitar, and I would just plug directly into the GarageBand and play to the click, and then make different arrangements. If there's anything that I can do, which is kind of crazy, I know a lot of people can do it, but without drums, I can come up with arrangements and put them on the click, and then I have no idea what my drummer is going to do. So that's the aha moments. That's the yeah, yes. When you go in. So a lot of people will write music, and I've heard of people just coming up with the vocal melody and then they just sing it and then they record it and then they put music after it. And that some people think that that's backwards, but there's no wrong way to do music.
That's how Michael Jackson did it.
Yeah, there's no wrong way to do music. You could come up with a vocal melody, which I'd love to try to do. So you're constantly challenging yourself to do different things, but primarily what I do is come up with a guitar riff, and then that evolves and you play it 1,000 times. And then, you come up with different parts, or you have a part from another song and you put it together with this one and it works out good. And then you put it to a click track. So Mature Musical Pictures really is that, is me arranging, some guitar parts, and then coming up with some lyrics and some vocal melody ideas, and then bringing it into the studio on the click, which is perfect, scratch track for a drummer to just fire away on. And my good friend Zach Kelsch, who I've been friends with for a very, very, very long time, I completely trust him, and I just know that anything that he's involved with, because he just does music all the time, and anything that he's involved with, I know that I'm just gonna love it. So.
And he played on all those records. He played the drums.
Yeah, he played the drums on the Resiliency record, and also in the single My Own Life.
Gotcha. And he is still in Pennsylvania now, or is
the Philadelphia area? Yeah,
gotcha.
In that Poconos. Yep.
Gotcha. Well, being a native of that area, I appreciate that. But that's the genius thing about Brett. He's one of those guys. He can hear someone's idea and he can help you get it to where you want it to be. Not that he's necessarily rewriting it for you, but he's helping you with the arrangement and doing everything that a good producer should. And and it's not always a cheap thing to go and record with a guy like that. But considering considering the prices he has compared to most professional studios and producers, it's really pretty competitive. So it's not it's not like overly I don't think he charges you exorbitant amount of money for for recording sessions, which is great. That a guy who's done what he has in the industry has been able to be as accessible to unsigned artists is a really cool way of giving back, I think.
Yeah. One of my friends, I grew up in the Northeast Pennsylvania area, and one of my friends that played drums for Breaking Benjamin, Chad Zaliga, when he first heard the single My Own Life, and then he already knew that I worked with, he already knew that I had worked with Brett before, and then I worked with him on that one, and he knows the drummer real well that played drums on all the songs.
That's cool. So you knew Chad growing up?
Well, not growing up. I met him
just from playing the circuit over the years and
in the area and having mutual friends. Yeah.
Talk about some local guys who made a name for themselves. Breaking Benjamin. Jeez,
I know. Yeah. And they're arena rock.
Hailstorm also came out of that area. They're from Allentown.
Yep. Yeah. Exactly. But what Chad said is that Brett is a hidden gem, is what he said.
He is.
Yeah. So, I couldn't have put it better myself.
Absolutely. He's one of those guys where I think people in the genre certainly know who he is. Maybe the average mainstream person might not, but like knowing it's like, oh wow, he played with Creed during like the peak of their success. So like that, that alone gets you attention, but also, the work he's done with other artists as well is definitely nothing nothing to sneeze at.
Yeah, there's some guys from Tallahassee right now that have some really hard rock, awesome, very polished and incredible hard rock music. Defy the Tyrant is one of them, and the other one, Fighting Giants, unbelievable guys, and their music is incredible, and they're just continuing to work with Brett. They're doing new music now. They were just there and they're waiting for some singles to drop. So those guys, I love those guys. Those guys are great. And then Regis too, he worked with Brett and his music is amazing. So we're all like, and also not only you, with Vertebraker, but also Steve Atchison, who's the other guitar player he grew up with Brett. He's like He's like Brett's buddy, you know?
Oh, really?
Yeah. He did the Califactor with him.
I knew that Steve recorded with Brett. I didn't know that like they were like personal friends before
for
that.
for a very long time. Oh yeah.
I was not aware.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
about that? Yeah. So let's get into it right now with this new lineup of Mature Musical Pictures. You wanted to put together a live band. You currently live in Fort Myers,
Mhm.
and you were looking for guys in the Orlando area. Now, for those of you listening who don't know, Fort Myers is like that's a good like 2 hour plus drive from Orlando.
Mhm.
But you were aware of kind of like the Central Florida music scene. It's fairly it's a pretty good place to be for our genre of music. I mean,
Yes.
I spent many years in Tampa and St. Pete, kind of like playing the circuit out there, and that turned out to be a really tough market, especially for the kind of stuff that I really wanted to do.
Yeah.
But once I moved here, I my career has been much better than it ever was when I was out there, and that's not a knock on the bands I played with out there, or it's just I just happened to find the right audience and find the right scene.
Yeah.
But it's kind of interesting. What I noticed right away is that you had looked, and part of what sold me on it was that the guys you're working with right now are guys who are also involved like full time in other like original bands. Like you mentioned Steve Atchison from Califactor, who Califactor is a relatively new thing. Like I don't think they've played their first show yet, but they're a relatively new band that Steve is trying to get off the ground.
Right.
Sort of a similar way to what you're doing, where he's a singer and plays guitar. With this band, he would be one of the guitar players. Now, the second guitar player is a guy named Josh Lyons from the band Filth, a band who I've seen several times. I don't really know Josh very well, but I know their singer, Eric Mann. And then you have a guy named Dean Andrews on drums, taking over for your buddy who recorded. But Dean is sort of, from what I understand, he's sort of like a local like hired gun type of guy, plays with a lot of different bands.
Yeah.
And so I guess I was the last piece of the puzzle, which again I appreciate you reaching out to me, and thanks to Regis's recommendation. But ultimately it's kind of interesting what you're doing with this group of guys, sort of this super group in a way. How you're looking to put together a live version of this. The way you've organized it, it doesn't sound like it'll be something that really takes up a ton of our time, especially if we do our homework and just learn the songs, and all we have to do is pretty much show up and play. You've kind of done all the legwork as far as like building the brand and writing the songs and recording the songs, and you clearly have a vision for this, which is really, really cool. You've taken initiative. So and when you talked to me about it, you mentioned that there were some endorsement deals and some sponsorships and other various things. So
Yeah.
that kind of sold me on it. Be like, okay, well, like this is definitely something worth getting involved in and just kind of seeing what happens. And I guess we can already say it right now. Like we do have a show booked. Can we even announce it yet? Or
I'm still waiting on like a hundred like details. I need like details for it, but it's in January.
Gotcha. Well, I'm sure by the time I post this, we'll probably have the okay, so I'll probably record this later in the outro that I usually do whenever I end these things.
Yeah.
But yeah, it definitely got my attention right away as far as all the stuff you have going on, all the people that you've been talking to, and we'll get into those details in a second, but that made me think like, all right, well, this guy's pretty serious. It doesn't sound like I have a lot to lose by joining up with these guys, and at the very least I can make connections, and if I can't be the full-time guy, maybe I can help them find their full-time guy. But it sounds like for right now, it doesn't seem like it'll be that much of an issue. So I'm literally kind of taking this day by day. It's a funny thing that we're already doing a podcast this soon after it. But clearly I was thinking like, man, is this guy jumping the gun by announcing this thing? But clearly you've got something already in mind, and I appreciate you trusting me and the other guys that we're working with on this thing. I think it'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah. I agree. I definitely don't want to like overplay. So I want to make it that something that's, that it's exciting So I mean, like maybe once a month at the most, twice a month. So that means like, on a monthly basis, once or twice a month, we play a show either in the Tampa or Orlando area or even in Fort Myers, where you guys could come down here and do something. And,
Sure.
I don't want to play, I want to play shows that are useful. So I don't want to sound bad when I say this, but I don't want to play pointless shows.
No, I agree, and I've done quite a few of those over the years, just because, I mean, for me, and it's driven my old bandmates nuts. But I was thinking, like, man, to me, I was just like, well, that's what you do, and especially when you're just kind of starting out and just trying to make a name for yourself or get booked anywhere. But you already have sort of a pretty good social media presence with this band, and you already have like some endorsements behind it, like Maverick Apparel, by the way.
Yeah.
Which is a company that I just recently found out about. I had a few friends who were involved with it, and they're like, hey, Jack, we got this thing, let me know when you get the band back together and this and that. And you already, and now that I'm involved with this, it just kind of cements that relationship even further.
Yeah, this is going to be focused on like supporting you guys too, with your own project. So I'm a big believer in that. I mean, if you go back and see like how many times I posted a t-shirt with Vox on it and a hat, like, you need to go see Vox, or whatever. And, just trying to like help him share his videos and stuff like that. And that's just one example, and it's more around like, the Maverick family and the Brett Hessler family, and they kind of run together. A bunch of those bands are Brett Hessler Productions and also, Maverick. So it's just, the biggest thing is like supporting each other. And I think, music, live music and hard rock music and rock music, died out for a little while. And I think it's really coming back. And these guys that are from the Maverick, apparel company, are not only doing, apparel stuff and music gear, but they're endorsing bands, they're supporting bands, and, they're opening new doors to, music management and booking shows. They did a show with a bunch of bands, and a lot of people showed up, and, they were selling their t-shirts there and meeting people. It was a meet and greet, and it was like, all right, yeah, put a name with the face and, that kind of thing. So it was like making connections, supporting each other, being a family about it. It can only lead to good things for everybody. They just made an announcement. They're going to be doing some kind of festival next year.
Yeah.
Which is going to be like big time headlining bands, but then Maverick Apparel endorsed bands opening for them and supporting them. So, people, there's going to be a lot of exposure. Yes. So exposure is good. Presence is good. And in music, a lot of bands are trying to, and you'll notice that, I had a conversation with the lead singer of the Gin Blossoms. Okay. And he was like, I can't believe we're doing this, this meet and greet. It's not the, music just isn't the same. We would never have meet and greets. We wouldn't have our own sound checks. Back then he was just telling me, he was just a storyteller. He's just telling me what was, what it's been like and how they came back and all this other stuff. And I told him that I went to see, Sevendust, and I did the guitar clinic. And he's like, guitar clinic? What do you mean? He's like, yeah, I took my guitar to the show, showed up early, played guitar with the guitar players from Sevendust. We learned their songs. We talked about music. It was a great, meeting, and we paid for that and whatever. And it was a cool experience. And they signed guitars and stuff like, it's like, no way. So he's like, yeah, we're doing this meet and greet. And then he said that wasn't like what he was used to. And now it's all changed. So that musicians are trying to find different ways to, to get revenue.
Well, yeah, I mean, just the industry got completely turned on its head.
Yeah.
And, how different it is, the business model in terms of shows and merchandise and meet and greets and all these other packages are really one of the more viable ways to make money, especially even if you're a veteran band with a name and out there. It definitely helps to have those those avenues. And I'm sure it's not that. I'm sure for a lot of these guys, it's not that they don't want to meet the fans, but obviously that's just part of the job.
Right.
So
yeah.
But I think you're at an exciting place with Mature Musical Pictures right now in terms of you have the history with the band, you have you have one record and a single. You also have another one. I believe you have another EP that's sort of in the works right now that's being mixed.
Right now, I have production scheduled for the first week of December.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So that's exciting. Are you going to go up to Nashville and record with Brett for that, or?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
And do you have your former drummer? Is he coming in to play drums for that session?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
So, for example, I was talking to some people last night and kind of going through the process of our process, I guess, our Mature Musical Pictures, production process. I'll use the example of My Own Life. I may have mentioned this before because I can't remember, on a different day when we split this up a little bit. I don't know what I talked about and what I didn't talk about, but anyway, the drummer, I think I did already mention this now that I think about it, the other day. Anyway, the drummer comes in and his name's Zach Kelch, and he's a professional drummer. He plays in these really big time cover bands on the weekends, and he's always doing drum lessons. And he knows music theory and can literally write out the song.
Wow.
And he did that with all the songs on the Resiliency album. But for My Own Life, he just went in and did 3 takes, and that was it.
Just 3 and done. That's awesome.
And he never heard the song before. He's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, man. I didn't have time to listen to the song.
Wow.
We listened to it on the way when I picked him up from the airport." And that's how the other ones were too. Like that's when he does music every day. That's just how.
Yeah.
And I see his point too. Like not only is he completely jam packed busy, but if you listen to something and you do music every day, and let's say you listen to something and you're trying to be really OCD about it, then you kind of overthink things instead of actually do whatever you feel at the moment, instead of changing your feelings and saying, "Oh no, I'd put that snare head here, or I'd put I'd put a kick here, or do this or that." It's just, it comes natural. And then that's what I love about our process for Mature Musical Pictures. That's what I love about that process. It's it's not really most of the overthinking is done with my process in the pre-production, studio. And then it's all based on that. So the drums follow the, guitar, the guitar parts and, the BPMs and, all that come into play. So,
when it comes to performing live, I noticed that it seems like you prefer just focusing on singing and then having 2 guitars around you. Is it more difficult to play and sing at the same time, or do you prefer just singing?
I prefer just singing just because I want to be able to have some crowd control with this original project. I could probably play guitar and not focus as much on the vocals, but I really want to focus on the vocals, and I really focus on the crowd control, and I really want to focus on the energy that we're going to be able to deliver to the crowd. So that's what I'm focused on.
I hear you.
Harmonies will be a big thing too, because there'll be some harmonies going on in there, and I know I sent everybody the songs, but I know you're a great singer, and so is
Steve.
And so is Steve, yes, yep, and so is Steve. So
gotcha. I don't know if the other 2 guys sing or not, but I'm sure between the 3 of us at least we could make something that sounds good.
Yeah. I mean, there is a couple 3-parters in a couple of the songs. In the end of How Can I? There's a 3-part harmony, and then in the end of The End, the song The End, there's a 3-part harmony in there too. And that was just one of those things, like, I looked at Brett and I'm like, while we're, doing the vocals, for the song in the studio at the moment, I was like, hey, do you think we could put, 3-part there? What do you think about that? I'm like, come on, get in there. I know you want to sing, you want to have fun, you're just like us, so come on, man. Mm-hmm. And then he went in there and then did it, and then it just ended up in those 2 songs, so it was fun.
Definitely. I mean, he has such a great, recognizable voice. I was glad to get him on my record as well.
Yeah.
So I mean, he's definitely a good tool to have in the studio. Yeah. I do think it's funny, Bryant. When I look around, it seems like that's almost becoming the norm nowadays. You have guys who just kind of have an idea and they'll go into the studio and then build a band around it.
Yeah.
It's it's interesting. I don't know if that's becoming more common now, or just maybe at a certain point it's easier to just explain to people what your vision is. If you already have the songs like kind of written in your head, to kind of go and do that. It's always cool when you can get like a group of guys who just kind of naturally come together and then collaborate something from the jump. But also, this is also a viable way to build a band and to build something around it, and then have the guys come in and then add that dynamic and continue in the future. So it's I've told people for years, it's like there's no one way to do this.
Yeah, for sure. You could be very lucky and have guys that, don't want to kill each other and don't have, creative differences ever. Mm-hmm. And everyone's going to have creative differences. Everyone's going to evolve. So, not to say never, but at one point, that could happen. But whether you stay together or not is what makes the difference. With the way that, with one person kind of doing, let's say, like a solo project and then building a band around it, there is no room for any kind of creative differences, and there's just guys that will perform live that are, musicians for hire.
Sure.
And they're professional musicians, for hire, and, they get paid to learn the songs, they get paid to play the songs, mm-hmm. and, then it can be done that way as well.
Yeah, and who knows? I mean, maybe down the road, if the chemistry is right in terms of having more creative input later on down the road, you never know. But
what?
But I think I think everyone likes to imagine that I'm sure there are a lot of bands that are very democratic, where each guy kind of gets his own say, and I think that's all well and good if you can get that. But at a certain point, it's also kind of comforting knowing what your role in the band is. Like, okay, we know for sure that it's your baby, that it's your thing, and it's at a certain point someone's got to steer the ship, and so like we know who that is with this project, that being yourself. So I mean, like I tell people every day, like who aren't in bands, just like there's no one way to run a band, or every band is different.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think I think whatever works for everybody, and it sounds like this is a really interesting dynamic and something like I said at the beginning, I wasn't necessarily looking to add more more bands to what I already have going on right now, but when you came to me, it sounded like a really interesting thing. I mean, I've jumped into cover bands before, like kind of on short notice, but certainly for an original project that's certainly as fully formed as this is, despite the lack of local playing experience, I think there's still a lot of legwork that's been done, a lot of heavy lifting, and so it makes it easier for guys like myself to just kind of come in and it's kind of less stressful for me because I know I just have to come in and play.
Right.
And I'm okay with that.
Yeah, and I make it. It's probably not common that you have complete Dropbox video tutorials of Guitar 1, Guitar 2, and then the full song play. I don't know if you had a chance to look at those yet, but they're pretty detailed.
A little bit. I haven't gone through all of them, but yeah, no, I've listened to quite a few of them.
So I make it really easy for you guys, and then that way it's I don't have to feel bad about taking too much of your time. Plus I'm going to take care of you guys. and then that way I feel good about everything too. And then I'm giving you the tools to be successful. You're not going to have to spend a ton of time on it. And that way we'll focus on spending more time together, rehearsing the songs instead of like learning them at home. And it's not like you can go on YouTube and cheat because anyone figured these out and they're, popular enough that someone, learned how to play them, and my knowledge anyway, but when any other band you're trying to learn songs, the cover songs, you can just go on YouTube and find out like guitar, Sevendust guitar cover, and then there's a billion people there, Tremonti or Alter Bridge or whatever, you're looking for to try to figure out what you're going to play. And then you see someone playing it, and then you kind of like get a head start and kind of cheat a little bit on, figuring it out, and see how different people play it a little bit differently. And then, I've seen Mark Tremonti watch these videos of people playing, and there's some people that I actually know that actually post YouTube videos, and they make good money on that. I've seen him like, oh, he plays a little bit different. I position my hands a little bit differently, but you got the sound, you hear stuff like that. So it's different. It's cool. So yeah.
Absolutely. And in a way, it's kind of exciting, for me, because, as of this recording, we still have not met in person, really. I mean, we've talked on the phone. We're Skyping right now. I don't think I've met any of the other guys in the band really in person besides talking over Skype. So it's kind of fun and exciting and unpredictable that way. But but here we are.
Exactly. Yeah. And there's a lot of things going on in my mind too. That I feel like I just have these pieces like laying all over the place, and I have to form this Voltron or this Optimus Prime kind of like for myself, and put a plan together for you guys, because any one of you guys could be like, all right, well, what do we do next? And I'll be like, I don't know.
Right.
I already have stuff in my mind, but I'd like to get it documented and then kind of do some meetings and see who's okay. What songs? Did you learn this song yet? How about this one? Mm-hmm. When can we get together to have our first rehearsal? I'm going to be in the studio with Brett, the first week of December. The week before Thanksgiving, I'm taking a week off of work because I need to prepare the rest of these songs and get these lyrics set out and get the melodies all set up, get everything to the click tracks to get prepared for the first week of December. So when are we going to be able to get together? When do you guys think you're going to have the songs ready? And when we do that, I want to make sure that we get a photo shoot scheduled too. So we spend time on doing that. So we got professional photos. I already have the photographer lined up that does all the photos from Alter Bridge and Tremonti. She's in Orlando. She's part of the Maverick family too, so we're keeping everything in the family.
Yep, I know exactly who you're talking about as well. And she's I'm going to get her to do some stuff for the new Vertebreaker lineup when we're ready as well.
Awesome. Good.
So, it's funny. One of the things that I kind of touched on before, but just kind of knowing that the other guys in the band are guys who kind of have their own stuff going on made me feel a little bit more comfortable about jumping into this. I'm like, okay, so at least, this guy kind of knows what to expect from me and from the other guys, and but it feels good. And honestly, I'm honored that to be trusted to help bring your vision to life. And obviously, you've put the work in, and I can tell that you're very serious about this. So I'm glad to kind of help bring this through, and I love the songs. They're good stuff. So I'm looking forward to this.
Good. I'm glad you dig it. And I love that. I love that album, Resiliency. But these new songs are going to be the ones that we're going to really focus on. Yeah, we can figure those out and have a rehearsal or do whatever, get our photo shoot done. But once we get the roughs of these, at the end of that first week of December, once we get the roughs out there. And then I can kind of put some video tutorials together for you guys too. I mean, those are going to be the ones that we're really that are going to be featured because they're going to be heavier. I kind of have an idea of depending on how long our set is too. Kind of giving you guys a break in the middle, and then maybe doing an acoustic song on my own.
Yeah,
kind of headliners do, and it'll be like, these guys aren't headlining, but what are they doing? They're, the band's taking a break, and this guy's, playing the acoustic guitar and bringing everybody down, and then
Yeah, I mean, depending on how long our set list is, I mean that's something you could incorporate there. That would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, just some ideas like that, and then different intros between the songs. No dead air time is what I'm going to really be focused on to separate us from the other band. So
Sure. And speaking of that, for people who haven't heard your stuff yet, I know you mentioned that you're heavily influenced by like bands from the '90s. How would you sort of describe what your sound is? And if you met someone who had never heard your stuff before and they were asked, "Oh, what does the band sound like?" What would your answer be?
My answer would be different for each song. I mean, as a whole, if you put it all together, I don't know. I guess let me think about that, because I think I would say there's definitely some Dark New Day influence in there, which is the combination of pretty much Evanescence and Seven Dust.
I also hear a lot of Virgos Merlot, Brett Hessler's earlier band before that.
Yeah.
It's very moody, almost ethereal. Like it's mainstream, but it's not.
Mm-hmm.
It's very. I don't know if progressive is the right word, but it's definitely very moody and very atmospheric. A lot of the stuff that I've heard so far.
Good. I think that's cool. Yeah, I mean, I was really focused on the hooks, and so you'll hear a lot of chorus going on. Some very short verses. Some songs don't even have the pre-chorus. It just gets right into it. So it's just, it's very hooky. And then, that's going to be the difference between, and I think I mentioned this in the last time, the other day when we did the podcast, but, the first segment of this, I talked about how I wanted to make something that's kind of like for everybody, but have some songs that are really catchy and hooky. And, this next time around, and then with that new single, like that's, it's still catchy and hooky, but at the same time, I was like, I don't care how long my intro is, because I don't care how long the song is. Like, somebody asked me one time, like, why did Brett, let you have such a long intro for this? It's not like radio friendly, and, but it was on the radio,
Yeah, things can always be edited.
It was on the radio a couple times, and yeah, you can always cut things and stuff like that. So I would say that a lot of it, the influences are Seven Dust, Dark New Day, Alice in Chains, I Empire.
Love I Empire. They're great.
Yeah, Godsmack. There's a little bit of Chevelle into the new sound, into the heavier sounds. 3 Days Grace a little bit. 3 Days Grace. I loved 3 Days Grace when Adam was in the band, and I love the new Saint Asonia stuff. Yeah. And Corey Lowery was in that band when he first started it, and then now Cale Gontier, who's his cousin, who's Adam Gontier's cousin, who also plays in Art of Dying. He's touring with. So these guys are all doing all kinds of different. So you guys aren't the only ones that are doing different.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, it happens all the time in the business.
That's why this is okay.
Yeah. Well, look at Projected with John Connolly.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
I believe I was at their only live appearance a couple years ago.
Yeah.
So far.
Yeah, and Eric Friedman, he's in that band.
And Scott Phillips, Flip, from Alter Bridge and Creed.
Yeah. Yeah. And then Clint has his solo thing. I think he has Ryan Bennett playing drums.
Yeah, he's an amazing drummer.
And he's with Tremonti, and he was with Texas Hippie Coalition before that, and
in I Empire.
And I Empire, yeah. Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. And
so it's very much in the vein of like 2000s and 2010s metal with some 90s influence there.
Yeah. Yep.
I think in terms of lyrics, is each song different, or is there like an overall theme to some of your stuff, or how would you describe that?
Each song is different. There's no concept to it, and I don't plan on having a concept with these, this new rack of songs. But I thought about it, for the future, maybe next round. In a couple of years, we'll see how things go and see how these go. And, I don't want to stop. So
And you shouldn't stop. I think this is really cool, and kind of getting to the lyrics thing. I think what I was getting at is there a particular like type of mood or type of feel or type of lyrics that you tend to go for more than others, or is it just kind of whatever comes out comes out?
it's kind of like whatever comes out, and that's the way that I'm feeling that day or that week or whatever's going on. My own life is about, taking control of your own, destiny and not letting anyone, tell you that you need to be this way or that way. It's just kind of like freedom is really just, what that's about. And, there's some other songs from the older, record, Resiliency. One song's about, my grandfather that passed away from my mom's side. Another song is about a conversation that I had with my grandmother, after my grandfather passed away. And then, it wasn't like a pressure to have a grandson, for her to have a grandson, but like you are the only one that has his last name to carry it on. So I had this whole conversation with her about it. And that song is Anticipated Angel. It's more of an acoustic ballad, type of song. And that's the one that I think that I said we're going to pretty much skip because we're going to, play all electric stuff and plan on playing electric stuff. But if an acoustic gig comes up and, they want us to play some acoustic songs, then those can be, they're all recorded acoustically, and we can get some backing tracks to do some, piano and orchestra and stuff like that in the background from Brett. He still has the files, so we can make it really cool and do that too. And we can go either way.
Absolutely. Well, Brian, I'm excited, and I'm glad that we're able to sort of document this early, a conversation, I should say, this early into whatever this band ends up becoming, to kind of put this out there and kind of share with people what we're doing and kind of what the band and let people know what the band is and what it's going to be going forward, and it's exciting stuff. So, where can people find Mature Musical Pictures online?
You can find it on Facebook. You can find it on my website. If you just Google Mature Musical Pictures, it'll come up. And there's a website, there's a professional website that's out there. Facebook, I have the Twitter, I have, the Instagram. So those are all growing, and, that's where you can find it.
Excellent.
With this band, I'm not only focused on, this project. I want to help you guys too. So it's about helping each other and being part of the family, and, working with the endorsements and, just supporting each other and supporting this rock music and this rock music scene, in Orlando, and starting from there. That's why it's so great to have, professional musicians that are based out of there. And that's where, the music scene is, happening, and it's, will be more successful there. I feel like if we base that out of there. So I'm willing to take the drive, and I'm willing to do the work, and organize things and make sure that we're, on top of everything, and we're prepared, fully 100%, with rehearsals and photos and video. And, I was talking to somebody last night about music videos and getting a quote to do that. So try to build a budget.
A lot of big stuff.
What's going on? Yeah. Because that's the way to do it. There's a checklist involved.
For sure. And I think people around here are going to be surprised at how quickly things start to happen for this band. And look, I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know what's going to happen in the future, but I have a feeling like we're doing, you're already doing a lot of the right things. So I feel like we're going to come out of the gate pretty strong.
Yeah.
And especially with these first couple shows that we've talked about, I'm excited about it.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of legwork in the beginning, to get prepared and make sure that everybody has the, I's dotted and the T's crossed. So we'll try to all be collectively OCD about that and know how, important this is, and, how every detail is going to matter, and then, go from there, and then give everybody a great show, and do our best, and, make connections, and, work on, promoting our other projects, and just be a family. That's cool.
Sounds good, man. Let's have some fun. Thank you once again to Brian August of Mature Musical Pictures, who is one of my new bandmates in this new venture. I'm really excited to be a part of this thing, and I'm still doing my own thing. Vertebraker will come back. I'm sure I will have more details on that very, very soon. Make sure you go to maturemusicalpictures.com for all the information about this band, all the social media links, all the audio samples, whatever you need to find out about Mature Musical Pictures. You can go to the website. It's all there. And as far as upcoming events, man, I haven't said that in a long time. My first show with Mature Musical Pictures will be Saturday, January 25th, 2020, at the Shovelhead Lounge in Longwood, Florida, which is just outside of Orlando. Doors open at around 6:30. There will be several bands. The headliners will be Tantric and Smile Empty Soul, and the openers, besides Mature Musical Pictures, will be Orange Dawn and All Hail the Queen. It's an all-ages show. Make sure you get your tickets as soon as possible. There's a good chance this show will sell out. And depending on when you listen to this, my next guest after this episode, on episode 61, will be a guy named Regis Lima, who's the lead singer of a band called Vox, and is another person I've been collaborating with, low-key for the past year or so. We'll find out more about that. But the night after, January 25th, it'll be January 26th, the Sunday, they will be playing also with Tantric and Smile Empty Soul. Regis' band Vox will be opening for Tantric and Smile Empty Soul once again, but this time at the Brass Mug in Tampa, Florida. So make sure you check out Tantric and Smile Empty Soul's social media and information for that, for their tour. Go see them on the 26th if you're in the Tampa area as well. So that is it for this episode of the Phoenix Report. Make sure you follow me on Twitter at JackXConnor, and make sure you like me on Facebook at facebook.com/JackConnorMusic. Feel free to check out my main band, Vertebraker, at facebook.com/VertebrakerBand. As I mentioned, MatureMusicalPictures.com is where this new band is located. And as always, if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, make sure you email me at jackconnorpodcast@gmail.com or tweet me with the hashtag Phoenix Report. If you're listening to this on YouTube or iTunes, make sure you subscribe, hit the notification bell, leave a comment, go back and listen to all the other episodes, and stay tuned for episode 61 with Regis Lima of Vox and of New Divide, a tribute to Linkin Park. Make sure you listen to that one for all the details on that. This has been the Phoenix Report. I'm Jack Connor. We'll see you later. Bye.